tarima le ha tardado 2 horas.
Thank you, Brian. The official temperature here has dropped to 21 degrees centigrade, so it's getting cooler all the time. And we wait now for the national anthem. It's a great pleasure to be able to report that the England supporters showed great respect for the Czech national anthem. The San Mamés Stadium is becoming very much a home ground for England. Czechoslovakia, like France and Kuwait, are based some 200 miles southwest from here, near Valladolid. And unlike when France were here on Wednesday, it's the English voices that will have no trouble making themselves heard this afternoon. McMills with Zdeněk Nahoda, the two captains. Charles Corver from Holland, a very experienced international referee indeed, and regarded as the best of the Dutch referees.
Like anything like that.
Remarkably, in almost 5 years as England manager, it's only the third time that Ron Greenwood has announced an unchanged team. Slight injuries to Phil Thompson and Trevor Francis, both of whom missed training on Friday. They've cleared up. And Mick Mills, as I say, again captains the side. The England substitutes: Ray Clements, Glenn Hoddle, Phil Neal, Peter Withe and Tony Woodcock, the same 5 who were on standby against France. Czechoslovakia have made 4 changes from the team that could only draw with Kuwait. In comes Seman in goal, Wojciech and Radimets into the defence, and Halukka in midfield. And Nehoda, the most prolific scorer in Czechoslovakia's history, was only past fit this morning. Marian Mazny, another of the great names in Czech football, he's recovering from a knee problem. That's why he's only named amongst the 5 substitutes. And Antonín Panenka has been dropped. The signs then very good for England, but this of all World Cups has shown us that nothing can be taken for granted. You may have heard Paul Mariner saying earlier that the English management here have been working hard to make sure that the players' confidence doesn't extend into complacency. Brian Robson, what a week he's had in his personal and his professional life. England today back in the familiar white shirts and Czechoslovakia in red. Jan Berger, one of the midfield players. It's not the first time that we've had a slight delay before the kick-off. Just a case of the officials waiting for the time to tick away to the official local time kick-off at 5:15 here. Mick Mills, his 5th time as England captain, and every previous game he's been leading the side has been won. Two teams then in very contrasting form, really. Czechoslovakia with only 1 win in their last 7 internationals. England with that 100% success rate in their last 7. And Czechoslovakia defending the goal to the right in the first half. The pitch in beautiful condition. And here's Libo Radimets. It is a drastically reformed, reshaped Czech side. There would have been further changes, but Tomáš Kříž, the young forward, went down with flu overnight, and Janečka has been brought back in. The target then for England, 2 points here, and certain qualification for the second phase. Radimets. Sliding in was Ray Wilkins. Here's Trevor Francis, who was so sharp against France. Ken Sansom. Wilkins wearing 19. Phil Thompson 18. Mills. Czechoslovakia, like England, haven't been in the finals since 1970. Indeed, then the 2 teams were in the same group, with England winning that group game by 1-0. Stanislav Seman called back into the Czech goal in place of Pruška, who had such a disappointing game against Kuwait. Czechs in the end working the goal kick short. Radimets. Fiala, who was the sweeper against Kuwait, but is playing at left back in this lineup, and Steve Koppel to attack him. I wonder whether Koppel will try the long throw, as he did when giving England such a sensational start on Wednesday. It's into the feet of Francis, and a corner conceded by Boyacek. And Graham Rix across to take it. And Terry Butcher to join Paul Mariner on the near post. Francis behind them, and Robson coming from deep. Here's Mariner, who got the touch. Mariner and Butcher, in fact, take up the same position for England as they do for Ipswich. This is Bizek. Janečka. Butcher was late. Nahoda. There is certainly the feeling in the England camp that Czechoslovakia can't possibly play as badly again as they did against Kuwait. A performance described by Ron Greenwood as apathetic. Bizek. And this time it was Robson who sized him down, and Bizek reacted angrily. Jurkovic, quite capable of striking shots on target from this range. But it doesn't bypass the three-man England wall. Barmosh, a complete miscue, but turned out to be a pass for Halupka. Butcher's tackle. Berger, wearing 13 for Czechoslovakia. Francis trying to flick it back in the direction of Rix. Radimets. Past Robson. Never any doubt about the technique of the Czech players. At times their football seems to lack purpose, and their forward play lacks penetration. Radimets being given time to pick the pass, but only picks out the head of Butcher. Rix. Taken from him by Janečka. Barmosh. Rix tackling back. It was the switch of Graham Rix at half-time against France which was such an important factor in that win. Switching him back to a wide position on the left to allow Robson more responsibility in the centre of midfield. And that's the way England have started here. And Koppel dispossesses Fiala. Bizek chasing back. And it scrapes off the top of the bar, it seems, as Koppel flung it in under pressure. It's a goal kick. Koppel taking advantage of a mistake by Fiala and going with some purpose as Bizek came back at him. And then suddenly, when it seemed tight for him, finding a cross that had Simon in trouble. Simon was the Czech goalkeeper in the Olympic final when they took the gold medal there. Janečka. Barmosh playing it early for Janečka again, who's run it out under pressure from Robson. Here's Thompson, who's recovered from the bruised ankle sustained against France. Robson. The Czechs backing off Terry Butcher. Thompson again. Now Wilkins. Mariner and Francis busying themselves ahead of Steve Coppell to try and give him some sort of target, but he was pressurised by Nahoda. And England must start again from deep. With Thompson. Mariner off on a run again. Thompson was in fact trying to find him, but completely mishit it, and it's given away by Rick to Janečka. And England have to turn and retreat. And finally, Butcher opting for the safety of the stands. Berger. And Shilton had to be sure. He had the post covered. But Jan Berger hit it well on his left foot. It was just those sort of moments that were conspicuously absent from the Czech performance against Kuwait. The acceptance of responsibility around the penalty area to try and strike for goal. Francis and Mariner interchanging position again. Which is very much in the England way of doing things. Francis. Only Mariner though in the middle. Butcher. Mariner beaten by Jurkovic. Time Mariner breaking behind Francis. Also behind Barmosh. And England get the throw. Now Kenny Sansom has been working hard on the long throw routine in training. It's not a move that England have used a lot in the World Cup qualifiers. They're hoping perhaps to catch one or two opponents out. And they so nearly caught out Czechoslovakia. It was Radimec who sliced it away after Mariner had got the touch.
A tremendous play, that one, with Big Butcher at the near post. And these balls thrown in by Kenny Sansom really caused a few problems. England are a bit unlucky there, not to score.
So they have the corner. Butcher is on the near post again, and Voyacek climbed well. A bit behind for another corner. This time Butcher's gone away beyond the far post. Francis on the near post, Mariner coming from the penalty spot. And Robson is there as well. Out from Barmosh, volleyed by Wilkins. And Mariner beaten to it by Berger after Seman had blocked bravely. A superbly struck effort from Ray Wilkins. And Mariner couldn't quite get to the rebound. Wilkins with the corner. Nahoda chasing, Thompson there first, but Ray Wilkins so unlucky, almost finding a volley that got past Seman as he moved to cover the near post. Here is Wilkins. 10 minutes gone, and territorially England on top. Robson. Now Francis. Sansom. Taken down from behind by Jurkovic. Rick to his Arsenal colleague Ken Sansom. Same for Mariner, who was always stretching. Against Fiala, and it stayed in play, but Seman able to collect.
The game's developed into the sort of pattern we would have expected. The Czechs just slowing it down, knocking the ball around, keep possession. They're not doing it too well. And England are just going to be a little bit patient and not get too carried away and start playing the way they're playing.
Voyacek with the tackle on Mariner. Here's Mills. Always a little more teeth in the tackling from Czechoslovakia. Vízek on that occasion. And it really could almost be Wembley. The majority of support so clearly here for England in Bilbao. Mariner jumping, beaten by Halopka. Thompson. The Czechs all behind the ball again. Butcher. Aim for Mariner. He's dropped though for Koppel. And now Wilkins, and now Francis. And it was crisp, one-touch stuff that produced another corner. And stretched Czechoslovakia again. Played short by Rick for Mills. Mariner was leaping but could get no angle to his header. Radimec. Jurkovic wasn't the sort of pass that he would have liked to receive, and he was caught by Graham Rix. This is Fiala, though, for Czechoslovakia. Berger. Jurkovic recovered. And no problems for Shilton. Jurkovic, who's got defensive responsibilities in midfield in Czechoslovakia's formation today. Berger. Halopka to his right and ahead of him, but having to turn, which might allow Sansom to make a challenge, and indeed Pavel Halopka, who's only playing his second game for the full international side for Czechoslovakia. Halopka running it behind.
I'm just a little bit concerned at those two long shots that the Czechs have had. I think somebody from England's got to come and close the shot down a lot quicker than they're doing, because they can't straighten the ball very well, some of these Czech lads. Just a little bit too much time on the ball.
Here's Fiala, who's the current Czech footballer of the year. Berger. Now Radimec. Jurkovic, caught by Rick working back, and now Robson as England spring forward here. France is going to the right. Mariner is in the middle, supported by Sansom as well as Robson. And it's scrambled behind by Vojarček. Ricks again trusted with the responsibility of the corner. And again, Mariner and Butcher trying to work the oracle on the near post. And Koppel. Here's Mills. Nahoda, though, robbing him. Ricks wins it back for England. Now Koppel. And it was Robson. So adept at arriving at the right time from midfield. Koppel's cross just a little too high for Brian Robson on that occasion. 17 minutes gone, and it's England 0, Czechoslovakia 0. Berger. Alotka, fouled by Wilkins. The Czechs trained here for an hour last night. Barmosh. Butcher got there first. Back from Janečka. Butcher again. The time for Radimet. Here's Barmosh. Janečka trying to hold it up for Czechoslovakia and doing the job well. Berger. Nehoda through the middle, but has no chance in collecting that type of pass. Easy for Shilton. Last time the two teams met was back in 1978 at Wembley, when England won 1-0 with a goal from Steve Coppell. Here is Coppell, getting in behind Fiala. Poor Mariner, trying to knock it down for Francis. Butcher will collect. Wanted to drive forward himself. Nehoda, rather fortunately, through the legs of Coppell. And it's Barmosh, making Sansom scurry from Nehoda's pass. Janečka going in. In the end, Thompson able to tidy it up. But the Czechs switch the direction of the attack quickly then to bring their right back, Joseph Barmosh, forward. But it's England who go forward here with Mariner. The ricochet went for him, but just as he lost his balance.
It's nice to see little Stevie Coppell getting into the game forward a lot more than this game. He tended to stay in the midfield against France, but he's doing a good job for England up there now.
Radimet. Certainly Radimet looking a defender who's very comfortable in possession. Picks out Bizek. Radimet's involved again. This is Fiala. Jurkovic. Barmosh. Hansen being drawn out to make the first challenge. Radimet. A lot of men forward here for Czechoslovakia. And Radimet looking to try and complete the 1-2 and threaten England. And it's England's throw. Ron Greenwood, second from the picture, from the front of the picture with the glasses behind Fred Street, with Don Howe behind him. It's another situation that perhaps Sansom can exploit with a long throw. Goes short though for Rick. Advantage played as the feet were high. Mill. In from Coppell. In goes Mariner, who felt he was being pushed at the corner. Wilkins will look to curl it in again. And Simon, as the ball drops over Robson.
I think that's the first time we've seen a Czech goalkeeper leave the line in the 2 games we've seen him. He came out quite well there. I hope it's not going to be a pattern of his. I like him when they stick on the line. It gives us more of a chance.
Koppel. Here's Mills. France is coming short. Boyacek coming straight into the back of him. For Francis, who had 1 or 2 blisters following the game against France. He's moving perfectly freely today and winning England another corner. They're 6 against none for Czechoslovakia so far, halfway through this first half, which reflects the pattern of play. England will have a 7th.
I'm a bit concerned Butcher's not doing the job he started off doing. He's got to come a lot wider and going to attack the ball when he comes into this wide position.
Out from Boyacek. Sansom looking wide, and the linesman flagged, but flagged late. The offside given. Berger. Good movement again off the ball from the Czechs. Fiala. Here's Vízek. Fiala linking up again, and Vízek again. Slid out of play by Thompson. Now Nahoda for Vízek. Halopka and Janečka are waiting for the cross, and it was Halopka who flung himself in.
I'm not very happy about Mick Mills in these sort of situations. He can't afford to stand off people and let them attack him like that with the ball. He's got to get a lot closer to them. He's standing too far away from this player here when the player decides to cross it and makes only a token attempt to get the ball. He's got to do better than that. That was a dangerous cross and should have been a goal.
So here's Thompson. Robson. Now Janečka looking for Nahoda, cut out though by Butcher. Berger. Jokumik having to turn. Back for Boyacek. There was a worry in the England camp that the Czechs might settle to a pattern and a tempo of play. And England really had the responsibility here for raising their game, not allowing Czechoslovakia to slow it down. Butcher. Here's Robson, again Francis and Mariner busying themselves further forward. Here's Francis, who enjoys the responsibility of taking men on, will always try and stretch defenders. That enterprise has brought England another throw. There's Benglosh, just marked there on the Czechoslovakia bench. Sansom with a long throw. Mariner with a touch, and Robson misses an opportunity from the ploy that England have kept up their sleeve.
This is a tremendous throw again, and Big Butcher was the decoy, and Mariner came quickly to the front of him to nod the ball on. I think Brian Robson, when this ball goes over the bar, was more surprised to see it go there than anywhere, actually. Looked an open goal.
Certainly a miss by Robson, but he arrived in the right place at the right time again. Down from Butcher, collected by Wilkins. Now Ricks. Mariner. At times, though, the Czechs closing down well in midfield, particularly Jurkovic, who is a defender by nature. And he finds Fiala, who looks to take on Mills, who gave him the yard for the cross again. Halovka, now Janečka. Strength in the air, at the front and at the back isn't really very much in the makeup of Czech football. But one or two dangerous balls at the moment flying across the face of the England goal. Jurkovic, again able to pick up the loose ball just in front of the Czech back four. Fiala. Here's Boyacek. Berger beginning time to pick his pass and finding Jurkovic. Berger gets it back. Through a feint to try and take the shot himself. And Jurkovic tackled from behind by Robson. Czechoslovakia's free kick. And the warnings from Ron Greenwood to his players that we would see a more committed Czech team today, certainly seeming relevant at the moment. So what can Jurkovic make here? England have set a two-man wall. Halovka has joined the wall for the Czechs. And Jurkovic, it was a foot away. Vladislav Jurkovic, who scored spectacularly in the third and fourth place games for the 1980 European Championship. And he hit that beautifully, just too high.
That's one of the reasons I said England should close down the long shot, because they're well capable of striking them like that.
Sansom, Harris by Janečka. Halovka. Touched off by Bizek. Ricks and handball by Bizek. Right under the nose of the Dutch referee.
I'm a little bit worried about Rixie on the far side. He's not playing as sharply as he did in parts of the game against France. In fact, he looks a little bit jaded at the moment.
Robson. Nahoda brought down by Brian Robson. The England players lost on average 8 pounds of weight per man in that sweltering heat against France here on Wednesday. One wondered then about the longer-term effects of tiredness and fatigue. It's worth repeating again that the temperature is considerably cooler here this evening. Here's Koppel. Francis in space to his right. Mariner checking out to take up his position on the far post. Francis was caught by Bizek. Takes him on and then takes on Fiala, who came in very late indeed. Francis was really stung into a retaliation in terms of skill when he was cracked on the ankle by Vizek's first tackle. Drilled in by Ricks, easily taken by Seman.
I couldn't really see any sense in that free kicks of Ricks there. I mean, he was miles too far out to shoot from that distance, and it was a wasted ball.
Nehoda. Here's Fiala. Berger. Vizek in support. The pass was aimed for Barmosh. Robson was aware of the danger. Thompson being urged to play it quickly to the right, where he'll find Ricks. And now Wilkins. Francis was fouled from the back, and the referee played the advantage. But Barmosh can cut out the pass from Wilkins. Halopka. Boyacek. Halopka, who's done a lot of running from one side of the field to the other, now has to chase back to try and close down Wilkins. Ricks. Robson. For Francis. Target was Mariner. Header though was from Barmosh, but Wilkins picks out Ricks, who takes on Barmosh, and Robson. Well, the two best England chances have come the way of Brian Robson. On that occasion, Graham Ricks getting past Barmosh and a teasing cross, but Robson was caught. Jack.
Well, I think you'll find Brian Robson was impeded as he went for this ball. In fact, the Czechs and Eastern European defenders are very good at just obstructing the player and making sure that he doesn't get the header that he wants, even if it means letting the ball go. And that was exactly what happened there. If he had tried to get the ball, Robson would have scored, but he pushed him off it. But I'm a bit worried about the England performance at the moment, because that's the first attack of any quality we've had for about 10-15 minutes. And after initially a very good start, we've now suddenly started slow the game, and everybody wants to have the ball for a couple of taps, and a little pass here and a little pass there. There's nothing sharp or quick about the game anymore.
Robson okay. It was Radimet who just patted him on the back in a gesture of apology, who was the defender involved. 10 minutes left of the first half. Vizek. Halopka. Mistake by Radimet. It was Jurkovic who didn't want the responsibility of chasing the pass and risking that Koppel would have got there before him. Koppel then settled for the throw. Here's Sansom. Looking for Mariner again in the air, beaten by Jurkovic. Thompson. Mariner's touch. It's Francis and Mariner, who are under instructions to stay as close to each other as is possible when they're making these runs. Were far apart then as Mariner guided the ball down. Here's Mills. Butcher. Robson's got forward here, but it's Boyacek with the header out. Picked up by Wilkins. Mills. Robson. That strong running again. The pass that Koppel really had no chance of collecting. And now Vizek. Past Koppel and then past Wilkins. And played early for Nehoda, who is faced by Phil Thompson. Shilton quickly off his line.
He did that well, Phil Thompson. He closed him down just enough to let him think he could make it, and then when he tried to make it, he knew he was going to get the ball. It was a good challenge, that, because it was a dangerous situation.
Touched off by Robson. Sansom. Wilkins again. Czechs had retreated and were able to pick it off with Barmosh. And Janečka started to make a forward run, then checked out, having made a yard of space for himself. But the pass was wrongly directed from his point of view. Wilkins struck early and finding Ricks. What a good ball it was. Francis is in the middle. The header out in spectacular fashion was from Voyarchek. And the promising position then went to waste for England. And Nehoda goes down. Zdeněk Nehoda, who's been troubled for much of the season with a groin strain. There was considerable doubt as to whether he would start the game today. This is his 88th international. And in fact, he made his debut for Czechoslovakia against England back in 1973 in Prague. Radimec. Barmosh. Radimec. And a good header from Haloka. Pavel Haloka, who's replaced Antonín Panenka in this Czech side, to add some youth and a bit of physical strength and some freshness. And some enthusiasm as well as he gets a yellow card. A little unfortunate, perhaps. It was just a badly timed tackle on Francis. That's the referee deciding it was time to administer a caution. Ricks played early, and Sansom had got forward. Radimec having trouble making the clearance. Haloka. Mariner back to Mills. Here's Butcher. Sansom. Simon dropping up far from his left back station. Butcher again. Robson. Oda able to bring it down and take the sting out of the situation for Czechoslovakia. Vizek. Mills biting away at him. Vizek moving deeper to get away. Jokovic. Here's Radimec. Robson doing the harassing. Czechoslovakia building from the back again with Libor Radimec. Voyarchek. Awaiting the moment to move forward. Vizek coming short. Again to use the word from the coaching manual, there's a lot of rotation in terms of the way the Czechs are playing. In the end, England did their marking well enough to force an error. Robson. Here's Ricks. Sansom. Brings England another corner with a couple of minutes of the first half remaining. Taken by Wilkins. Punched by Taman. Now can Koppel drive it back quickly? And the referee looks at the incident, waved it away immediately. Halopka was the player who made contact with Koppel, but the referee thought no foul.
I don't think the referee thought no foul. He was in a bad position to see the incident. He was right on the far side. The linesman on this side gave no indication at all that there was a foul. I thought it was a foul, actually.
Jack, as we move towards the end of this first half, your impressions?
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed in the England performance. It started well enough, but we've seemed to have drifted away. We're letting the Czechs have much too much good possession and building it up. They're building it slowly, and they've not really caused us any real problems at the back, apart from maybe one or two crosses. But I'm not happy with England's performance at all. It's too slow.
Here's Ricks. Sansom. And Francis, not for the first time in this first half, brought down from behind. Barmosh, the guilty man on this occasion. By Barmosh. Maybe one last chance in this first half for Ken Sansom to apply some pressure with this long throw. It looked so dangerous for England. Butcher causing the confusion, and Robson, it came off him unwittingly in the end. He provided Taman with a simple save. The Czechoslovakia are really threatened from Kenny Sansom's long throws.
Strange fact that we could have been 3 goals up with those throws and the ploys that we've used from dead ball situations.
England certainly have worked hard at their set pieces under Don Howe since they've been out here. They scored, of course, from a long throw taken by Steve Koppel on the right against France. Vladimir. Robson. Here's Fiala. Taking it past Wilkins. Fiala again. Well read by Thompson, who was annoyed with himself then for giving it away, but it didn't matter as the whistle goes for the end of a goalless first half. The better chances coming England's way, notably 2 for Brian Robson. Czechoslovakia much more committed in their mood than they were against Kuwait, and they've given England a testing 45 minutes. A half-time score then, it's England 0, Czechoslovakia 0. We'll be right back with Brian and the panel in London after the break. Yes, Brian. Yes, Brian. Glenn Hoddle is on, and it's Brian Robson who's stayed in the dressing room, maybe as a result of that bang in the face that we saw just before half-time. So it's England who will start the second half, feeling then perhaps a little more adventure from their performance in the second half without sacrificing any of the solidity at the back. The Czechs have made no changes. Jurkovic. Janečka making the run forward. It's well covered by Sansom. Haluka. Hoddle trying to make the challenge. Getting possession here from the pass from Butcher. And immediately extending the range perhaps of England's passing from midfield, although Paul Mariner had run offside. Boyacek just being made aware that it was a free kick and not a goal kick. Still not quite sure of the placing of the ball. It was considerably further forward, in fact. Hoddle. Nehoda. Here's Berger, breaking forward from midfield for Vízek. Chilton hasn't had much to deal with in terms of direct shots, and Vízek not troubling him then. He was one of the more impressive players against Kuwait, Ladislav Vízek, making runs in from the left-hand side of the Czech attack. Here's Hoddle, who's been encouraged by Jeff Hurst, who's a member of the England coaching staff here, not to be impatient. First reminding him that he didn't get into the 1966 side until the quarter-final. Francis. Ricks has made a late run into the area. Koppel can drive in the cross. Sansom is there, and Mariner has Seman was caught in trouble. The goalkeeper had come off his line and was nowhere near Koppel's cross. Unfortunately for England, Mariner couldn't turn it in.
It's a good attempt by Mariner, and he got right over the top of the boy. But again, the fullback didn't appear to want to play the ball. He just was aware that someone was coming behind him.
Sansom. One touch from Hoddle, and the second was for the feet of Ricks. And England have the free kick. I think it was handball by Jan Berger. Hoddle. Now Ricks. Was aiming for Sansom, who ventured forward. Hoddle covering in the left-back position. Ricks, it was important for England that he won that against Berger. Mariner had to take it on the chest because there was no one up with him. Still Mariner. Well, it was an excellent effort because he had no support and he was aware of that fact. And he took it down on the chest and went for goal himself.
That's a sign of what the panel was saying. The midfield aren't getting forward quick enough to support it. That ball travelled a long way, and he held the ball a long time, and no one got there. And he really wanted to play the ball square.
Wilkins, here's Hoddle. Sansom. Mariner's flick that went over Hoddle. Jokamik. Wilkins impeded by Jokamik. Czechs caught lacking in concentration, allowing Koppel room. Steve Koppel has lost his goal touch at the moment for England. More than 2 years since he last scored in an international. Letting Radimet take the goal kick, which are towering above Janečka. Wilkins. Francis. The ball guided down for Mariner, who did well to get it back to Trevor Francis. Hoddle's got forward, so too has Mariner. But Francis was looking for Mills, and the pass really had no chance of finding it. But Wilkins won it back. And Mills, who was on his way back, can now go forward. Koppel. Mariner is the target in the air. He was looking to guide it in the direction of Hoddle, and it only went for Halupka. Wilkins. This time playing it forward to the feet of Mariner, who couldn't control. Nehoda. Vizek. Looking to take on Mills. Thompson well positioned. Hoddle. Wanting it back from Ricks on first time for Francis. Nice build-up from England, involving Mariner as well. And Hoddle. Well, Glenn Hoddle was slow picking himself up. Is limping back into midfield as Czechoslovakia go forward with Vizek. And now with Janečka. Halupka perhaps will regret deciding to shoot. He hit it all wrong. In fact, it's gone for a throw. I think it was Malcolm MacDonald who used to say, never be afraid to miss. Wilkins. Too long for Mariner. For Jack, a moment or two earlier, there was some neat England build-up involving Glenn Hoddle.
Yes, I like Glenn Hoddle as a player going forward. I've got a few reservations about his qualities when he's been attacked, but I don't think the Czechs have got that much quality in attack to worry us too much. But I would still like to have seen Brian Robson stay on. We miss him.
Free kick taken short by Czechoslovakia. Mills, who conceded it, then concedes the throw. Nehoda. Back pass from Koppel, and Halupka is rushing in. It was always likely to come second. Wilkins eased on nicely for Graham Ricks. Faced by Janečka. Wilkins, Thompson again, and it's Wilkins making the advance run this time, beaten in the air by Bojarček. Hoddle. Radimet's trying to bring it clear. England in possession again with Sansom. Francis backing his face against Barmosh, and the optimism brought England the free kick. Ricks. Past Haloka. For Mariner. Radimet just tucked it away. Mills to play it back in again. Settles instead for the short ball for Wilkins.
We're not getting a right lot of movement from the forward players of England at the moment either, and they seem to be packed in there on over the edge of the 18-yard box, and no one's prepared to move and chase. And they're making it very difficult for the man on the ball to pinpoint a pass.
A nice touch by Janečka. Freed Nahoda. Now faced by 3 England players. He finds a way through for Berger. Haloka. And Hoddle can't hold Berger off. And this is Vízek. Looking to attack Mills. Vízek again. Fiala. Jurkovic. Cross from Janečka is a tame one, no problem for Chilton. Wilkins. Well, Francis was a little surprised to find the ball reaching him. Perhaps Wilkins was playing it in Hoddle's direction initially. Hoddle has it now. Fiala stopping Koppel. With 11 minutes of the second half gone. Still England 0, Czechoslovakia 0. Czechoslovakia, I think, would be happy with a draw. It would mean that they would then have to get something from their last match against France next Thursday. Berger. The Czechs continue to make pretty patterns really through midfield with their movement off the ball. Vamos. The Czech coach, Josef Fenglov, is a great respecter of English football. And Butcher misjudging. Janečka, and Chilton has to make a save from a direct effort at goal from Petr Janečka. The player who was initially dropped from this match, but recalled when Krish went down with flu overnight. Vamos, tight on Ricks. In goes Sansom. Hoddle squeezing a pass forward for Francis. Taking on Vamos. And in the end, having to settle for the throw. But we saw what positive moves England have made in these situations in the first half. Here's Sansom to try again. Butcher has made his way forward. Mariner is on the near post as well. And it brings England a corner. Zaman has had one or two sensitive moments coming off his line. Ricks this time taking them from the left. Pulling it away from the goal. For Hoddle. And now Vízek. Against Mills. Thompson is drawn out of the middle. And Koppel prepared to lend his help to his defensive cause as ever. In the end, bringing Vízek down.
That's one of the problems with having Hoddle, you see. He commits himself in some bad positions in midfield and he lets people run away from him. It's, if they're going to use him, I think they should put him a little bit further forward and anchor somebody in midfield and let him go play.
Well, the end product is a free kick to Czechoslovakia. Hoda and Jurkovic over the ball. And Jurkovic with the shot, and again it's straight into the wall, and Trevor Francis felt the full force of it. And the worrying news from the England dressing room is that Brian Robson stayed off at half-time because of a groin injury sustained in the last 5 minutes of the first half. Push by Rix on Halopka. Just over half an hour remaining. And the England supporters in good voice singing the national anthem. Jurkovic for Czechoslovakia. Halopka, too high for him. He got it back from Sansom, who then brought him down.
I'm not very happy with England at the moment. They don't look to have a very good balance about them at all. And it's just not right at the moment. I don't feel it right.
Vamos. Fiala. Here's Nahoda, taken up by Fiala, who showed too much of it to Phil Thompson. Now, can Fiala get the cross in this time? With Hoddle, who stopped him. Koppel, who can play it forward. Hawkins. Wide for Sansom. England have 3 men through the middle. Hoddle is making a 4. Here's Rix. For Mariner, and Francis, as the goalkeeper just slapped it down. A let-off there for the Czechs. Butcher looks for Mariner again. Here's Hoddle. And here's Butcher. It was the original cross from Graham Rix who got into a good position that troubled Seman. Butcher had the final shot.
We would have been unlucky there because if it had cleared the goalkeeper, we had a player in the back, I think it was Mariner, waiting just to knock the ball over the line. And then it fell back to Hoddle. And if he had been expecting it a little bit quicker, he may have just run in and knocked it in. As it was, he stood still and let one of the Czechs get in front of him.
I think it was Francis, Jack, actually, as the ball came down. Wilkins. Mariner holding off Radimet. Sansom. Now Rix. And they've left Francis. Faced by 2, Trevor Francis, and Vamos in the end defended well, but had to push it behind for another corner. The corner count has very much gone England's way. There hasn't been one yet for Czechoslovakia. But as far as goals are concerned, it's still 0-0. And Seman gets the goal to Trevor Francis. He'll get none easier at any level of football. Trevor Francis, whose wife Helen and his sister Carolyn flew out to watch this game. How pleased they'll be to see Trevor get a chance like that.
The disastrous by the goalkeeper. It's the sort of mistake we would have expected the last one to make. But here, there's no excuse for him dropping this at all. He's on no challenge at all. And Francis struck it beautifully, I'm glad to say.
And it came at a time where perhaps now it can lift England through. An awkward phase of the game just before the goal, when the Czechs were having their share of the ball in midfield. and creating one or two threatening moments. A time that Jack was saying he felt uneasy about. But now England can celebrate taking the lead. For Trevor Francis, his 7th goal for his country. Palopka. A neat turn that took him away from Sansom. And it'll be interesting too to see how Czechoslovakia react. They'd matched England and drawn confidence, I'm sure, from the way it had gone for them in the first half. Francis, a bad foul by Barmos that time. An elbow in the face that goes unpunished except for the free kick.
I know it's nice to get a goal, but it's the sort of time that I would like to see our midfield now just consolidate a little bit. It's a bad foul, this. He actually hit him with his elbow. Whether he intended it, I don't know. But we've now got to settle down, and we've got to keep the ball, and we've got to knock it about, and we've got to play for possession. Because in a game like this, we've qualified for the next round just by winning 1-0. The main thing is we don't give a goal away now.
But how nice it is, Jack, to see Trevor Francis getting his share of the limelight, having missed out in 1980 when we qualified for the European Championship with that severe Achilles tendon problem that some people thought he might never come back from.
Well, it was nice that he scored the goal.
And this is Hoddle.
It was nice he scored the goal because he was the one that made the corner from which it came. And he's worked very hard, Trevor Francis. He's moved about quite well, but he just looked as if he was flagging a little bit when he actually scored. The England bench looks a lot happier now as well, don't they?
Up goes Thompson. Off the chest of Francis. Mariner. And almost an own goal it is. I think the final touch was Barmos. And it's going England's way now. It's certainly not Steve Coppell as they put the name up. And that should secure a place for England in the second phase.
Well, this was an incredible old goal. The goalkeeper here, again, was all over the place. He's going one way. I thought he should have had that, actually. It didn't go in that quickly. But it's great for England, 2-1. Wonderful.
Another look at it. It was Mariner who just played it forward, hoping to find Francis. Barmos trying to turn it wide of that post, but turning it inside. We're halfway through the second half, and the happy scoreline is England 2, Czechoslovakia 0. Radimet. Palopka, if he turned then, he would have had a chance himself. He didn't realise. And at last, the Czechs get their first corner. Shilton making sure there's no lack of concentration in front of him. Out from Hoddle. Jokovic. Now Vizek. Back for England by Ray Wilkins. Coppell. Wilkins, adjudged to have been high. Palopka was on the receiving end. Now Nahoda, waiting for Barmosh to go outside him, and then using him as the decoy. England supporters who've been so patient through the 70s, which began in 1970 in terms of the World Cup by reaching the quarter-final in Leon, but was barren in this competition after that. I'm hoping the 80s now are going to bring a return to glory. And here's Francis. It might even have struck Mariner. A goalkeeping mistake and an own goal it may be. How delightful it is to see England 2 goals in front. Put out by Hoddle.
The beauty about playing teams like the Czechs, when they go 2 goals down, there's no way they can really change the pattern of play. They're committed to it all the way through. And, you know, they'll not change anything, the Czechs now.
Alopka, no foul that time. Hoddle. Mills. An awkward one to control from Koppel, but Mick Mills did enough to produce handball by Boyacek, and it's head in the hands time for Joseph Venglos. England have the free kick. Hoddle will take. Touched away from Butcher by Radimet. Can Ricks here plant it back? In the direction of Mariner, who climbed well. Butcher goes in. Seman is in trouble again and was grateful to hang on. Butcher, who competed with the goalkeeper, took a bang on the head.
The Czech manager must be wishing he had one of the England goalkeepers in his camp, because the 2 we've seen have been a disaster for him.
Janečka. Here's Radimet. Now Berger. Offside, Nahoda. In terms of the flag being raised, the referee wanted play to go on. Berger. Radimet. Now Holobka. Waiting on the left with Vizek. Czechs now with nothing to lose. I've got numbers waiting in the middle. Radimet is forward here. Hoddle making a tackle. But will please his critics. But England now can regroup. Berger. And Barmosh was having a discussion with the bench and was completely flat-footed. Maybe England can profit here. Hoddle. Mills galloping ahead of him. Here's Francis. Now Sansom. Francis, can he whip it in with the left foot? It was blocked by Jurkovic. Francis again. Too long this time for Mariner. Nahoda. The Czechs continuing to interchange positions to work a way forward. Radimet stopped by Jack.
They don't do anything different, the Czechs, you see. All they'll do is they'll keep possession, they'll try and get a little bit closer to the goals, but they don't change anything in the pattern of play, like stick someone else up front and then maybe knock the ball out and work off him. It's just the same pattern, a little bit quicker.
And it's a pattern that, by and large, England have coped with competently enough. Wilkins. Sansom. Halopka tackling, and it's a goal kick. And in fact, Czechoslovakia want to change their goalkeeper. Seman has asked to come off, presumably injured. He was holding a hand, suggesting that that was the damage. Karel Stromšik, wearing number 22, who is the third keeper that Czechoslovakia have used, and they haven't completed 2 games yet in this competition. Whether Seman is blaming his hand injury for his mistake, perhaps so. Stromšik getting a sympathetic round of applause from the England fans behind that goal to the left as he comes on. 14 minutes remaining. Wilkins. Koppel. Mariner won it well. Francis trying to set himself for a volley. Koppel is the England player who's in the wars. Play goes on though with Jan Berger for Czechoslovakia. Nehoda. Berger. Or Vízek. Now Jurkovic, we've seen him hit 1 or 2 so far. Halopka with Sansom, who dived in and made an important contribution there for England. We're just a little slack then. The Czechs want to make another substitution, and it's Marian Masny, who's had knee trouble. That's why he hasn't started either of the 2 games. Coming on to represent Czechoslovakia for the 74th time. And for the 4th time against England. He was a very important figure when we lost 2-1 in Bratislava in the European Championship 7 years ago. But it's a last desperate throw really from Joseph Englos, because Masny is certainly not fully fit. He has replaced Janečka. Here is Masny. And here's Vízek. Now Nehoda.
Well, I said after we saw the game against Kuwait that the Czech team was probably the worst one I've seen for a long time. And they've really shown no punch at all in this game. In fact, of course, England very, very few problems.
And here go England again with Sansom. Foul by Halopka. Ken Sansom a little unfortunate, really, because I think Pavel Halopka is about the only Czech player quick enough to have caught him. And he's sporting enough to go and retrieve the ball out of your picture at the moment. England now with the added weapon of Glenn Hoddle at free kicks, and Stromšik able to save it by the far post. Haloka. Here's Hoddle for England. Mariner on a run. Jokovic. This is Berger. Past Koppel. He's got Bizek to his left. Given away by Bizek to Wilkins. For England now, it's just a matter of maintaining their discipline, making sure that everything stays right at the back, and if possible, icing the cake with a third goal. Sansom. Ricks. Wilkins. Ricks again. And the Czechs stand and watch. Hoddle. In the end, it breaks down with Ricks. It's the type of football, Jack, you can play when you're 2 goals up.
Yeah, but it was nice football, that, and England did play something like that against France, where they keep the ball free and fast and play one touch, and that was a lovely example. It stopped it when Glenn Hoddle put his foot on it instead of keeping the movement going.
Here's Radimat. Berger. Masny. Well, it's pretty football again across the field, though, from the Czechs. Still seeking the final punch. Masny. Bizek. Sansom determined not to be passed. Gets help from Ricks. Another little situation there where club understanding helps England. Although it's still not sure whether Graham Ricks will be an Arsenal player next season. Ken Sansom, though, certainly will. Butcher looking up, spotting movement from both Mariner and Francis. Haloka. Here's Bizek. Nahoda. England getting men behind the ball, but not getting close on Berger and allowing him to pick a pass wide to Fiala. Still Fiala. In the end, Koppel was there. England feel it took a deflection off Jan Fiala, but the throw given straight away by referee and linesman to Czechoslovakia.
It's very difficult in a game when you're watching, like watching Czechoslovakia, to actually try and pick out a star in their team or someone who's got a little bit of something more than anybody else. And they haven't, you know, they're almost all of the same pattern. Not one of them's got any exceptional pace, and it's or a good passer, or a good tackler. Nondescript, I think, is a word.
Barmosh. Radimat. Hoddle. Here's Wilkins. England can play it at the pace they want now. Hoddle. Butcher. Wilkins picking out Mills. Koppel. Hoddle has joined Mariner in the middle. And Strumchik watched a cross pass over and behind him almost, where Barmosh was covering at the expense of the corner. 5 minutes then left. Wilkins with the corner. Out by Jurkovic. Halopka. Radimetz. Just to take up your last point, Jack, it's interesting that in Czechoslovakia, a lot of the more physical athletes turn to ice hockey. And Czech football suffers quite a lot from that. They get good technicians, but not always battlers. Radimetz. Hoddle taking it away from Thompson, and Ricks for Hoddle again. Koppel stretching away through the middle, and Wojciech opted to turn it away to safety rather than take the chance of a back pass under pressure. Barmosh. Halopka. Here's Mariner. And now Hoddle, who's very keen to get England forward again. As Francis has to check. But the match being played out now to a backcloth of delighted England supporters here, and I'm sure many millions of you equally pleased in front of your television sets at home.
It'll be nice next week to sit and watch the Q80s, and we can enjoy the match knowing that England have already qualified, because we've got one or two entertaining players among that lot. I'm looking forward to seeing them.
That match is here next Friday, and you can see it live on ITV. Here's Ricks taking on Barmosh. Francis. Well, on his left foot, perhaps getting too much velocity, trying to pick out Mariner as he arrived. This is Hoddle. Bizek. Now Nahoda. Trying to link up with his old cohort, Marian Masny. But England had 7 players back to just 2 forward for the Czechs. Thompson. Here's Mariner. Koppel taking over from Mills. Hoddle again. Francis, can he turn? Well, that's something of a speciality of Trevor Francis. When it's on his right side, he can let it run and spin into the shot as he did then. Just couldn't keep it down.
This is the sort of run by Trevor Francis that next week against the Q80s will tear into bits if they play offside the way they do. But when he turned on that ball, you know, he's terrific on his right side, Trevor.
into the final minute of normal time. Vizek. But they can't get past England. With Thompson just a suspicion of a limp as he came out of his defensive position, having made the tackle. Francis. Koppel going infield ahead of him. Now Wilkins. Looking to hit the run of Mariner, but a yard or so off target with the pass. But it doesn't matter, because England are in celebratory vein here, because England have qualified for the second phase of the 1982 World Cup, and still with the luxury of one game to play in the first group against Kuwait next Friday. The goal from Trevor Francis in the 63rd minute, and the own goal from Barmosh 3 minutes later. Congratulations then to Ron Greenwood's players for having done the job, and deservedly now they really can look forward to an extended stay in Spain. The supporters who've made the journey here have seen England produce for them. Czechoslovakia giving, in the end, a performance that didn't really trouble England. They had no penetration going forward. Peter Shilton just going off there relatively untroubled. And as the players make their way down the tunnel, Graham Ricks there with Don Howe. Down on the pitch, Jim Rosenthal has with him Trevor Francis and Brian Robson.